Hi everyone, this is the SEBA meeting for October 2nd, 2018. We don't have a whole lot of things on the agenda today. I'd first like to make a call for any new items, and then I'd like to do a discussion of what we're going to focus on in the next coming months for November, up until the November target, and then which is going to probably end right before Thanksgiving, which is a week before ONF Connect. Do we have any new items?
Yeah, so I wanted to make just the point on where we are in terms of code possibly working or not working. Considering that, well, first, the demo for BBWF will have to move from today on, likely on VoltaMaster, at least. And also, I'd like to get out of this loop of working on, at some point, we'll need to fix a version for the demo as well as we did for Amsterdam, right? But I have the feeling that it will be a pain this time, hopefully not, but it will be a pain this time to go back to work on master, because we will see lots of bugs that we were not seeing because, you know, unfortunately the QA pod is not ready because the OLT is broken and we cannot really test SEBA. And so I don't know. We personally try things, right? So do you have any thought on this?
Well, I moved to VoltaMaster yesterday and didn't go well. So
question number one is, do we know which OpenOLT lab is VoltaMaster using? Well, 95%
yeah,
that's the issue.
No,
right?
no. So OpenOLT hasn't changed until this last weekend. So what happened this last weekend was I found a bug in VoltaMaster regarding packet ins, and Shab fixed it that required a change to the protobufs used between OpenOLT and the OLT.
Right.
So that's the only change that I'm aware of. Every other check-in that has gone in since Amsterdam to VoltaMaster has not changed the protobufs. So, I mean, I can. It could be something I was trying as well that wasn't working. But yeah, so from today we will be moving to VoltaMaster.
So my point in general, guys, is that until the release of November, I'm not saying that it, you know, we should prevent things from happening, but we really need to find a way to keep things kind of stable, right? Because like this, really, one day things are broken, one day things work, and unfortunately are more the days that things are broken than the days that work. So it starts to become really a nightmare working like this, right? So, for example, the one thing, right, is if QA is really blocked on the automated tests, I know we are working during the day, but let's find a way just in the night, if we can, to share the pod and use it for development in the day, right? So we have a QA result at the beginning of the day. So that thing, in principle, there's no way it should pass. We can't have master broken all days.
Yeah, fair enough. We can look into that. Yeah.
Because when that passes, we know it works.
Yeah,
right?
That should be pretty easy to run.
Yeah, it's a matter of a half hour. The build and test is a half hour.
Well, yeah, I think the biggest concern will be that sometimes developers will have a status to keep on the pod for the next day to continue debugging, but it's also true that lately you just rebuild the pod and started again to debug the problems, right?
Yeah.
So can we just take this decision that we set up after the meeting on whatever you want? We move your job to the pod here. Is that fair enough?
Once a night.
Once a night,
That's easy
right?
to do. We have the test. We can create the job, and if you don't want it on a timer right now, maybe what we can do is just between the people that actually use it, just send a ping at the end of the day to one of us saying, go ahead and trigger it tonight, and we could do a manual build every night.
Yeah, I would do the opposite. I would just keep it running. If there's really something happening, we disable it, because I think those will be rare occasions. But at least we have, well, I know the other good thing is that I know that Andy is keep running every 4 hours, at least a SEBA in a box thing, which doesn't give us the end-to-end because it doesn't test really the OpenOLT adapter, but at least gives a rough idea of where things are, right?
Yeah, I think it's good to have that job, but I just want to let you know, currently it's not, the master tests are not blocked because it failed even before we run the end-to-end test.
Okay, good to know. Then we should know from you guys at least if it fails. I need to know from QA that fails and where it fails, right?
Sure.
Well, not me. I mean, as developers, we need to, as the engineering group, we need to know when things fail that same morning.
Yeah.
Because that same morning we are in time to go back of one commit or look what that commit did.
Yeah.
Otherwise, after 15 days, we are screwed and there are too many variables, right?
Yeah. And so do we have, like, well, because our core profile is the one that's broken on master, right? AT&T is fine.
Well, yeah. Okay, so RCord, unfortunately, is not good. It's a long time we say we should make it work, but it became a little bit a lower priority, and I think after BWF we should be committed to make it work as well.
Okay,
right?
I was talking about RCord.
No, so the primary thing here is SEBA, AT&T workflow,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
That should really work with the end-to-end test ping.
Okay.
And to ping doesn't just ping part, and DHCP doesn't work on our pod, but we can just duplicate that same job to ONF pod.
Right.
If you guys
Here
okay.
everything is supposed to work,
Okay.
so
We can do that, and are we okay to build that job right now and starting tonight, midnight running it?
and we can put together after the configuration files update. Well, you can use the same configuration files we use, right? That's it. You just add your test part at the end of it.
Yeah, I'll make that job in JGB. So.
We can use the same build.
Yeah, same job, right? Just put a camera on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Start from there, yeah.
So that was it. Sorry for taking time.
Thanks, Luca. Did we have any other new items to discuss, or older items that have status?
You want to go through PPWF stuff? Just a
You
minute.
can, sure.
Yeah, so just one more thing. There are external people to NF from the community on the call. We want to give you an update on what will happen in the upcoming BBWF demo that will happen in Berlin in less than a month. So as you probably know, we are working quite a lot. Our focus is all on that demo now because it's going to be quite big. So this is the plan of what we will demo. We will have a pod with 3 Kubernetes server, 1 management server, and then, 1 fabric switch from EdgeCore, and then OLTs from different vendors, including Atran, CIG, which both provide an XGS-PON OLT plus ONU. And then there will be also Iskratel that will bring 2 OLTs, one XGS-PON and the other GPON, all working together on the same pod. Plus, we will try to use, if we get there, BBSIM to try to scale up with the OLT control plane and try to show lots of OLTs connected. Okay. So as you can imagine, there is lots of work to do, both for logistically and technically. The idea is that we are working with any vendor to make the different OLTs work and be confident as much as possible that everything will work in the final integration. That will happen 1 week before BBWF in Deutsche Telekom in Berlin. And then the first day of the staging for the demo, we will move the pod from DT to BBWF, and hopefully things will come together. And yeah, and this is what we will show. Okay.
You missed the OLT from Edge code also. That's also.
Oh yeah, and there's OLT from Edge core, of course. Yeah. So if you guys have any question about it, just let us know.
So Luca, that's a great segue to what I wanted to have a brief discussion about, which is, do we continue in a demo-driven mode, or are there strategic features that we need to add? Maybe strategic isn't the right word, but important features that we need to put resources into, or are we remaining demo-driven? This is about planning. Do we continue to be demo-driven through November?
So there are just well, a couple of thoughts. Okay, so first of all, demos, well, at least in my point of view, should be just an excuse to accelerate in a proper way, not doing hacks the development, right? So,
No,
for example,
I'm not denigrating demo-driven. Is that the right approach?
So demo should be one thing. I think the other very important thing, well, besides the fact, as I said before, that master should just work.
Right.
But this means that also Arcord should work. That's another big thing for me that should happen.
So, is there any feature that we think we are leaving out because of the demo that we would like to work on?
That's a good
I think there are migrations, but I cannot think about anything else. So if there isn't anything else, I don't think it makes a very big difference to be demo-driven or release-driven if the feature set is the same.
But again,
so Larry, let me ask it a different way. I mean, we're not focused on demo at the Foundry. We're focused on something we can deploy to production.
Exactly.
But I don't know that that means it's not suitable for a demo.
No. So that's essentially what I wanted to do that, which is what features we're not getting into demos, perhaps because they're a big bite to chew off, that you are going to need for your deployment. And just think about this, from the big picture for a moment as part of future planning. We don't have to resolve it today, but so
another way to put it, so if we really wanted tech profiles, like if we wanted to have POTS unis and we wanted to have,
but this isn't Volta right here. Right?
No, I'm just saying though, but very much Volta, if Volta breaks, none of this matters. So, so my point is if work started on tech profiles in earnest, there will be a time, or 2.0 in general, there'll be a time where master is going to be a hot mess. It's going to be like, stuff is going to be falling apart left and right. And I mean, this is why, at least for me, I want to rely more on a stable branch to at least work from in the short term.
Yeah, but they're talking about how they deploy their manpower.
No, I know. I get it.
I mean, in my mind, for what we need this year deployment-wise, we're just polishing at this point.
Okay, that's a statement that's very important. So one thing that we can continue to do is to polish and not bite off any new features.
Right. Well, again, this is part of the reason why for the 1.5 branch. But it's if we start looking at things that may not be directly related to Volta, this is where like maybe how we build out our Kubernetes or having an air-gapped install and things like that, which may not be so much of a community-driven thing, but at least for AT&T, we'll work on, stuff like that might be what drives our time.
Yes. So we're focused now on deployable and supportable.
So would that include, one bite-sized piece of work that is being sketched out right now, and it could be high priority, is database migration.
What was that?
I didn't catch the last word you said.
The database migration, support for.
Database. Oh, how to upgrade if we were to move an etcd from an old to an etcd data to a new Helm upgradable.
Yeah. So that's also within Volta and also within NEM and X.
Yeah. I would say so. I mean, that's one. I mean, we've kind of, as part of deployable and supportable, we've kind of trying to drive towards, we can restart vCore and things work. We can restart the components and things work.
We can restart abstract OLT.
We can restart, right. And so what goes with that is along the way, if you swap out with a new version of a pod, if etcd data has to be rearranged, we'll need that. Or for all of SEBA, Postgres data or wherever it's being stored.
Okay, so that's a great example, and that one is getting some attention. Are there, well, support.
Well, how about software upgrade of the ONUs or the OLT? I mean, long-term maintenance is going to require that.
Yeah, well, and ONU software upgrades, I think we've purposefully ignored for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's a 2.0 plus target. I mean, the list I got from the VPs at AT&T didn't include hot upgrades or anything to do with upgrades. Even from that perspective, the abstract OLT has gone farther than what's actually required. Manual provisioning was fine. So from what we must have to declare success,
well,
we're there, other than polishing up the little nits that the team's working on.
Well, and regarding ONU upgrades, I mean, at least within AT&T, there's still some debate as which ONUs are used, which models, which ones we're working with, let alone upgrading them. So, I mean, it's kind of like we haven't even gotten started on the upgrade part because we're still playing around with which ones we want to use.
Yeah, just looking to see if this beautiful one.
So anyway, in terms of macro features, at least in my point of view, we miss for sure make hardcore work. Multicast, but I need to understand how many people are requesting multicast these days. I know there's some requirements from some service providers, and I would think it's something important. Not sure what's the point of AT&T on this. IPv6, it's just a matter of finishing up the work I was doing already on the synchronizers of XOS, but that should be quite a trivial work at this point. Nothing else specifically comes in my mind. Do you have other big features?
I think the biggest feature we need to support production is database migration, because we need to be able to allow new version of the software without tearing everything down.
I think there was also something about clustering and having just being like the restart tests and being able to make sure that the pod survives a power cycle and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think the first thing that all people complain about, which is pretty trivial to understand, that it won't really work in a production environment, is having only one instance of ONOS also, not a cluster.
Yeah, so another thing to look into is, I think, the API. So the Foundry with Abstract OLT has been programming to Tosca as the API because our gRPC API is not quite ready to be consumed. So I don't know if the Foundry is happy with doing it that way, or they would prefer gRPC. And I don't know if we want to have like a position for when we expect Tosca to be used and when we expect gRPC or REST to be used.
Well, just in general, I would prefer gRPC because then I'm compiling and I know if I've got a field named wrong.
Yeah, I think my preference would be to use gRPC as well. I don't think this is like a big change for us to get this ready for you to use. It's like a few small things in stabilizing the API and getting you a more bite-sized chunk of what you want rather than the whole thing.
Yeah, and I would imagine even if you tell me here's your proto file, compile against it, that it wouldn't take me like a day or two at most to port over. So, I mean, I'm fine if you want to work that now, or if you wanted to wait till, post September release. I mean, obviously we're post September, but.
And there wasn't even a release, by the way.
No, but there was a tag. It was an Amsterdam tag.
Yeah, the Amsterdam
And
tag.
that's all we actually committed to do.
Yeah.
There'll be another Berlin tag that'll happen in October. It's almost like releases A, B.
So what is the
Can we
next
get a
one?
Monte Carlo tag? I'm sure I can get travel for that one.
I'm all for it.
Anyway, yeah, so
Preferably during the Grand Prix.
it's a good list. Yeah, I think we're making very good progress on multiple fronts. So yeah, there's a lot of work left to do. But I think we're well on our way. Nobody should be under the impression that the demo based workflow that we are doing is all to waste or one-time effort, and it's not contributing to the stability of the code. I think it very much is. We fix bugs all the time. I think this small list that we have on here, we do need to go back. There was Zach and I had planned this week to sit with Sean and the Foundry folks, Mike Gasser, to try and understand, moving from September to November, what would be the highest priority items. And I can see that a lot of things on this list won't make it into that. So that's still something that we need to plan on, Zach, this week.
Okay, that's fine. We can set up a specific time. I made some suggestions, but I think let's figure out after the meeting when we're going to have that meeting.
So on this list, we don't have performance because it's not necessarily a feature, but I suppose if performance is so bad that you can't do something you want to do, then it does become a feature. Is that something?
Yeah, I would second that.
Yeah. I think at some point we'll have to put forth meaningful effort in helping with BB Sim.
But we do have plans. BB Sim's supposed to be ready like the end of next week.
That's
I know, but
and we can actually start really stressing everything.
But I know that there's been some question about how to get it to work with the new OpenOMCI. So there might be some assistance needed to make it like the new adapters are. But yeah, we want to be able to actually load test this.
Hey guys, this is Asim. Can you hear me? I wanted to interject and ask a question or a clarification.
Sure.
Okay, so some of you know the TLT is asking us to provide a status and a dashboard for both the RD work, which obviously doesn't concern this group, but what concerns this group is the SEBA exemplar, right? And what I am not sure, and I had a discussion with Sean Yang yesterday about this, was what is the target we are shooting for from the TLT at the highest level, right? With Amsterdam and Berlin and Copenhagen or whatever the next tag or releases is fine. But to meet, at least in my view of the world, the target is actual physical trial at significant volume of SEBA at AT&T and other operators like DT and Turk Telecom in the future, right? So is that the right target we should be measuring ourselves against is the question for this team. And what are we calling that 1.0 release of SEBA exemplar? What are we calling it?
So the target is well, what AT&T deploys is really a question for them. As far as I know, they have started on that process by the Foundry folks are helping a pod come up in Austin, I believe, and they're well on their way to doing that. And where that goes from there, that's again a question for AT&T to answer. But yes, we will be looking to do a SEBA 1.0 release, so to speak, towards the end of the year.
Okay, so we'll be measuring our progress towards that 1.0 release, and the goals of those releases are kind of understood by now, or are they still being flushed out between you and the product managers?
Well understood. It's the most stories are already on the Jira.
Okay.
And we have prioritized a few things for September, and most and then there's going to be another priority list for November.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, well, I'd like to also to point out, because I know it's a fact that, you know, we are much in line with AT&T for sure, because they are participating in daily stand-ups, and we are really proceeding in the same direction, hopefully, as far as I understand. That's not much true for other service provider you mentioned. And, you know, I'd like to make sure we get these people, besides participating to DRDs and so on, but, you know, if the same TLT where these operators are will evaluate the progress based also on deployments, we should really have these people engaged with us, right?
Right. So I think when when we are in Berlin, that's the goal of. I'm talking to Turk Telecom in Istanbul, and then in Berlin we'll talk to Turk DT and get them really signed up on at least nail down a date. It doesn't have to be in January. It can be in March or May next year, but we need to have a date and an alignment with what the exemplar, what information or what source, what code they need out of the exemplar for that to happen, right? So
yeah, I'm telling you, because the disconnection I found is I know exactly what they are deploying, because there's a difference between what they have as an idea for the far future, right? And which is beyond 2 years from now, for sure, which could be something similar to the example platform, and what they are doing now, right? So I know those are different plans. But yeah, as you say, we can talk more with them when we are in Berlin, for sure.
Okay. All right, that's all. Thank you.
Are there any other topics to discuss? I think we've gone through and given quite a few different positions on this, and I think we've reached a fair bit of consensus here. Okay.
Yeah, I think the big one being migrations and upgrades. I think of the two lists, it seems like that's where the most
followed closely by multicast.
Yeah,
at some point.
At some point, we're going to do
gotta
multicast.
have to have it.
Do we?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we? We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, the redundancy, the restartability, upgradability, yeah, no question. That's where we're at right now.
If we don't do it, we'll need it, and if we do it, we won't need it.
Right.
Okay.
But I don't think multicast is that far off, right? We had it working in Cord, the original Cord, right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it was in my early days, so I wasn't quite sure, but there was a lot of head scratching.
Scott, didn't we have multicast working way back?
Yes, we did, but it's the code since then. Code base has changed a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think multicast is that. It's not that complex of a thing.
It's just
the hardest thing is calculating what your MAC address should be, and that's just.
It's just work. It's like if right now we're not dying for that feature, but I know one thing that I personally experienced, at least with the setups we have right now, is having to tear things down and build them back up again because of an upgrade is a non-starter.
Well, I know one of the AT&T, the Tom Anschutz guys and all that, one of the things they're wanting is they want an integrator to build a pod in a lab, package it up, rack and all, mail it to the CO, they plug it in and it works. But currently, etcd wouldn't survive that. You'd be rebuilding it from scratch anyway.
And network internet connectivity, that's the thing. Some of the things we were going to sort out is an air-gapped install that you don't have DNS to the internet, you don't have public repos and things like that. But that's another aspect of this that we're prioritized for us too. Anyway, other than that,
why is that prioritized only for the Foundry? That should be prioritized for the exemplar in general, right?
no, it should be, yes. I just, I can only speak for what we do.
Okay, but so Saurav and Larry, isn't that something we have been talking about that for the last year or so?
So for the demo in Amsterdam, since we were not confident in the conference network, we integrated everything we needed in the pod. We deployed the images there, and I can confidently say that we were like at a 98% air gap installation. There were still a couple things we were downloading from the internet, but those were mainly YAML files for configuration.
Yeah, and to be fair, we haven't tried very hard at it. So I think it's easy work and straightforward. It's just something we just need to sit down and do.
You got to find all the cracks, fill them in.
Yeah, just do it. Yeah.
We internally at Cord, we have been talking about this for the last 12 months. And I think this is surely a priority for Cord in general, but specifically for SEBA, it has to be a priority. Right?
So Asim, I completely agree. And I think maybe I heard Scott trying to say something. He's starting to work on it.
So, but guys, okay, in short, the good news is that with the Kubernetes integration and so on, I'm really confident that we can arrive to the 100%, right? We were downloading YAML files. So long story short, if you really want to make this happen, we have capabilities now to make it happen. Yeah. It's not a big problem. It's a matter of learning how to do it and make it happen. But it's already possible. We already proved this. 98% have Matteo said in Amsterdam. So if also you guys from AT&T, the Foundry, want to contact me and we go through it, it's definitely not rocket science. I guess you guys already imagine how to do it, right? You just have to push images to the pod, which you already do, I guess.
Just to say,
I mean, the reality is we just got to decide to do it and do it.
We just got to.
Right, exactly.
Just to give some context, the only thing that was pulled from the internet was the Kafka Helm chart that we are using the official upstream one. But if you just clone that Helm chart locally, then you're done.
Yeah. I mean, it's other things too. I want to think through, like I'm pretty sure in the interior of the UVerse network, we don't have DNS at all. So anything that relies on naming, we'll have to internalize that or come up with something. But yeah, little things like that we just need to try out.
Yeah. So if it's completely air gapped, we may need to make some small fixes to the GUI because it's downloading some icons and stuff from internet, but it's a really small stuff.
But yeah, I think the point is it's good work, easy work, and it's a common goal. So I think we can work towards it.
Yep.
And so maybe we could create an epic for that and just
an epic for air gapped install and then just fill it in. I know Austin's trying now, and then she's hit me up with things related to this, so I need to do something about it soon.
Okay. Are there any other comments? I think that's all we have for today. Thank you all.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. See you guys.